Good evening all. I'm Aditi Lamba with the Tuesday night edition of South Asian News, Vision of Asia. We are coming to you from our studio in New York City. Welcome to the show. Let's begin the episode taking a look at the coronavirus pandemic and its impact. The world has surpassed 124 million cases of COVID-19 with nearly 3 million deaths. Here in the United States, we're at more than 543,000 COVID-19 deaths with nearly 30 million cases. On these numbers, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky warned that the new cases and hospitalizations are starting to rise in the Northeast and Upper Midwest, especially as COVID-19 variants continue to spread across the nation, worrying many health experts. This is why, again, it is important to follow CDC's guidelines of masking up and keeping social distancing and hand hygiene when it comes to the coronavirus. On vaccines, the Biden administration is loaning about 4 million of its AstraZeneca vaccine doses to Canada and Mexico as the company awaits emergency use authorization in the U.S. Meanwhile, in politics, Senator Durbin called gun violence a public health crisis in the wake of yesterday's Boulder shooting and the shootings in Atlanta. To the families and friends of the victims of these shootings, we send our condolences and prayers. May you all find some peace. With that, it's time to begin the South Asian News segment featuring political commentators, leaders, and doctors. Here are the headlines. Gun violence, a public health crisis featuring political commentator Rohit Vyas, New Jersey. Dr. Mishal Reja on coronavirus updates and measures, New York City. Mayoral candidate Mahesh Bhagia raises over $100,000, Edison, New Jersey. It's time for a short break on Vision of Asia, Voice of the Community. We'll be back shortly. And welcome back. I am Aditi Lamba and this is Vision of Asia, Tuesday night episode of South Asian News. Let's take a look at coronavirus measures and updates. Today, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said that the city's workforce will return to work in person on May 3rd. He said we are going to make it safe and send a positive message about city, which has been one of the most impacted on moving forward. This comes as many states are ramping up vaccinations and increasing eligibility. So far, more than 156 million vaccine doses have been distributed in the U.S. and about 126 million have been administered. Also on vaccine, the U.S. Safety Board has expressed concern over the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is awaiting to be approved for emergency use. The Safety Board said that the company may have included outdated data and information in its latest vaccine trial. Meanwhile, Regeneron announced that its monoclonal antibody cocktail reduces the risk of hospitalization and death from COVID-19 in high-risk patients, bringing a positive look on treatments that are working. More on this and the impact of COVID-19 currently, we spoke with Dr. Mishal Reja. Here is Dr. Reja. As of now, in the United States, we are at 30 million cases almost and at least 543,000 deaths. Today in New York City, Mayor Bill de Blasio said that New York City's workers will be finally going back to work on May 3rd, and that will be in person. So my first question to you is, when you look at these numbers and how large these numbers are, is it wise to now announce that we'll be opening up more in May?
You're absolutely right with those statistics, and that question is great because it raises concern for a bigger picture that's going on. So I think what Mayor de Blasio is referring to when he talks about opening up these restrictions is cases are down overall. So since the peak in January, right now cases are down about 70%. Hospitalizations in the past month are down about 30%, and deaths overall are down. However, I think the reason your question is so important is because what we've been seeing nationwide, and especially in New York City, is that cases have actually been plateauing or going up. So we've eased lots of restrictions in the city. Right now, we have 50% capacity in restaurants, schools are opening, different shops are opening, and we're seeing this drastic uptick in cases, and we're seeing it in New Jersey too. So some of these efforts to increase openings, to get people back to work. We as physicians see the value in that, but it is a little too rushed. The city, Mayor de Blasio just recently issued a statement saying he's going to slow down or be more cautious about some of the reopening.
Right. And when you are looking at these numbers, Doctor, today CDC Director Dr. Walensky said that she is warning states that are in the Northeast and the upper Midwest, just like you just said, the cases are increasing. Who are the biggest contributor to these cases? And would you say the young population from age 20 to 40 are truly contributing to this?
That's such a good question. I think what CDC Director Walensky also said in that statement is that we're standing in a fork, and we can go down one road and we can go down another road. And right now, if we keep going down the road that we're going to get another fourth surge. So it's unclear about which demographic and which age group is contributing the most. But I will say that states like New York City, or cities like New York City, and especially Miami and Michigan, are contributing to the rising surge. So in Miami, we saw that they imposed an 8 p.m. spring break curfew because young people more and more are traveling, and they're bringing the disease there, they're giving it to each other, and they're bringing it back home. With that said, variants and easing of restrictions are typically contributing to the large increase, and a lot of young people are at fault for bringing those variants back home.
So what would you say to these states, Dr. Reja, that are currently loosening up, restrictions such as Texas, Mississippi, and many of the states are following? What do you say to them?
Too fast. I think that we live in the United States of America, and we have a separation of federal government, the CDC, the city government, and the state government. And while that has enormous benefits, what you see is some states are easing mask mandates, where it's so clear that the president of the United States, the top doc in chief, Dr. Fauci, the CDC director are saying, please stop. And it's just establishing a dangerous precedent. Look, aside from being a doctor, aside from treating patients with COVID, aside from, doing the rigorous training that all of us physicians had to do, I'm a son to my mom and dad. We're originally from Queens. Our businesses are in Jackson Heights. This just personally affects me. And I, just like you, don't want to see another fourth surge. We don't want to go back to it. I have so many stories, along with every other physician, of the deaths they've seen, the families who've lost loved ones, and nobody wants to go back to that. Right.
When you are looking at all of this, Doctor, European nations are going on strict lockdown. Germany just announced it. The UK has been on it. Do you see a lockdown happening in this nation if the cases keep on going up?
That's a great question. I do not personally see another lockdown happening. The reason that I don't see another lockdown happening is because right now we're at a race against time.
Right.
So what that means is we are one of the nations that are rapidly vaccinating people. So we have a 1 in 5 vaccination people in the country who've received a vaccine dose, which is amazing. So if we can speed up the vaccination process, we can actually get ahead of the variants that's causing this drastic rise in cases. Now, European countries are a little different because their restrictions were different, their vaccinations were different, and the rates of which they were vaccinating people were different. So as long as in the United States, we can get ahead of the variants, we can vaccinate as many people as quickly as possible, we're not going to see another lockdown like we've seen. But what we will probably see is an easing of restrictions.
In New Jersey, Edison's mayoral candidate, Indian-American Mahesh Bhagia, held his first fundraiser and raised over $100,000 in support for his campaign. Held at the Pines Manor, state Democratic leaders came out in support for Edison Democratic Organization, in which Mr. Bhagya received an endorsement for the mayoral run for this year. State Senator Patrick Deignan and Assemblyman Robert Karabinchak, along with Edison Councilman Joe Coyle, were all present at the fundraiser event and said that they look forward to the changes which will be brought by Mr. Bhagya as a mayor. Mr. Bhagya expressed his gratitude and promised to get Edison its fair share of resources from the state. For more information, visit edisonfirst.com. Here is the story.
I'm truly honored and humbled today for getting support from my big brother, Jay Anna, Praveen Anna, Guru Anna, and Ramesh Anna. They've been supporting me from day one. Every time I called them for the support, they said, Mahesh bhai, done. What do you need? What else you need? I became chairman of last year as a Democratic Party chairman. They always came. They always came and always supported me from the day one. So again, I thank and I am humbled again to be serving this community, and they are always with me. So please, any members for Tana also, you should feel proud because they are being represented. That your community and getting me involved is a great thing. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ITV Gold and Parikh Worldwide Media viewers. Here we are at Mahesh Bhagia for Mayor's fundraiser at Pines Manor. This is an historical event, and this is going to be a historical election. We have our first potential mayoral candidate for Edison, New Jersey, one of the largest communities of Indians in the fifth largest township of New Jersey and the first largest in the county of Middlesex. So we want to make sure that, you know what, we have full support for Mahesh Bhagia. He is the chairman of the EDO as well. And he actually has been involved in politics for the past 12 years, doing ground level work from grassroots committeemen and committeewomen races to the point where we are at this moment, which is the chairman of the Edison Democratic Organization.
I am proud to be part of this team. This is the future of Edison Township, and I am absolutely certain that they will lead Edison Township on to greater and better things. I've had the pleasure of knowing Mahesh for years. He is a born leader, and he will unite this town and bring it forward.
We're excited to work with Mahesh, an excellent leader, a role model and mentor for us, and we're going to make sure that this town is unified and get our agenda done. We have a 0% tax increase this year, and we're going to push forward and make sure we win. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak, and thank you to the whole team.
I'm looking forward to making Edison a town that I grew up in, that I love. Working with these fine people, Shannon, Mahesh, Sparshall, and I look forward to making this town great as it could be.
Their Assemblyman said, this is the face of Edison. This is the right team for Edison. We're here to make a difference, and thank you for all for coming. Thanks.
Everybody, looking forward to this Democratic line being strong, from Phil Murphy to Senator Pat Dagnan to Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak, Assemblyman Sterling Stanley, Mahesh Bhagia, McCann, Pang, and Patel. Straight down.
I'm running for the mayor because we want to make sure everyone's voice is heard and Edison residents are finally put first. We are tired of the political favors and the backdoor deals. There are three big reasons I'm running for the mayor of this town. Number one, our taxes are damn high. We all deserve better services and clean water. And we need open and transparent government. But I cannot do this alone. I'm truly blessed to be running with three council candidates who have track record of being leaders and active volunteers in the community. Only together with your help can we fix these issues and move Edison forward. Thank you all for your support, and a special thank you to the Pines Manor and the staff. We continue to support small businesses like Pines Manor throughout this pandemic. So thank you.
I'm truly humbled by Senator Dagnan and Assemblyman Rob Karabinchak and Councilman Joe Coyle coming here today to support our team. I hope we can live up to their expectations. They have been working as a public service for many, many years, and we hope we can follow them on their footsteps and serve the community with a greater good like they have been doing for many, many years. And I can tell you it's not an easy job. So again, big round of applause to them for doing this for many years. We are just getting started, so I hope we can do good for the community as well. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Deepak Patel, and I'm a great supporter of Mahesh Bhagia. He's the candidate of Edison mayoral candidate. So we would like to see that those who are the listeners should support, come out and vote. And if you are going to vote it, then we would like to request you to support Mahesh. Mahesh is a great candidate. He has a very good agenda to support not only Edison Township, but also total Indian community in New Jersey. And I would like to rest my request that please vote support Mahesh Bhagia. Thank you.
My name is Anand Patel, and I know Mahesh from so many years. He is a community man, and he speak less, but he deliver. So I just wanted to rest assure community that he is a community man, and please support him, and also let community know, all other your family colleagues living in Edison, vote for him. Thank you.
Hi, this is Pradeep Peter Kothari. I am at one of the leading restaurant and banquet hall, Pine Manors in Edison, in a fundraising event for a leader, Mahesh Bhagia, who is running for a mayor in Edison from Democratic Party. Mahesh is a chairman of a Democratic Party of Edison, and I'm sure Indian American will contribute a lot more. They have already done a lot more, but next 30 years is going to be a Indian Americans years, and they will prove what they can do for a main stream community. Thank you, Mr. Bhatti, and thank you, your chairman, Dr. Sudhir Parikh, for covering this event. Thank you.
On winning the Democratic nomination for Edison Township. I want to congratulate him and his entire team. I think Mahesh and the entire team has great ideas and can do very good for the entire town of Edison. We are behind Mahesh and we support him 110%, and he is going to be the voice for Edison, not only for the neighborhood, but also for the business owners. So please support Mahesh as much as possible and the entire team. Thank you.
And it's time for the short break on Vision of Asia, Voice of the Community. We'll be back shortly. And welcome back. You are watching Vision of Asia, the South Asian news segment, and I am Aditi Lamba. Yesterday saw a shooting in Boulder, Colorado, where a gunman opened fire in a grocery store, killing 10 people, including a police officer. A suspect with the name of Ahmad Al-Alibi Alissa has been identified by the police and is charged with 10 murder counts of the first degree. The authorities have yet to share information on a possible motive. The shooting comes less than a week after a gunman named Robert Long, age 21, opened fire on local spa businesses in Atlanta, Georgia, killing 8, 6 of whom were Asian American women. Since then, grief and anger have sparked protests and a conversation over racism, misogyny, and gun violence. Senators today debated on the new urgency towards addressing gun laws and the violence in the country and called it a public health crisis. Discussing more on these shootings and the message it sends across about racism and public safety, we spoke with ITV Gold senior political commentator, veteran journalist Rohit Vyas. He shared how he can be allies for the rest of API communities. Here is Mr. Vyas. I'm talking about the shooting that took place in Boulder, Colorado. 10 people dead, including a police officer. The gunman opened fire at a grocery store, and currently we do not know the motive behind this shooting. This is happening less than 1 week after the Atlanta shooting at the spas, which killed 8 people, 6 of those who were Asian American. So before we go anywhere into this conversation, discuss what its impact is, my first question to you is, do we or do we not have a problem of gun violence in this country right now?
The answer is obvious. We have a serious problem of gun violence. We've had it since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy back in the 60s, and subsequently his brother, the Attorney General at the time, Robert Kennedy, and many people after that, and many things would manifested themselves into mass shootings, such as at high schools, grocery stores, theaters, things like that. This has been going on far too long, and there is an endemic problem in society here involving gun violence. It's also indicative of the mental stability of many in society, something we need to look at very seriously, especially in light of this past year of cabin fever enforced by the pandemic around the world. There are people who have not been able to handle it, and we don't know what the motive was in the very latest shooting right now. It's being investigated, but all of this is coming together to a boiling point where we're going to have to figure out in society Do we really need so many guns, especially assault weapons, the type that was used in the Colorado shooting in the latest incident? Do we need things like this? Do we need to enforce a ban on guns altogether? What we need to do legislatively, it's being discussed right now. Ironically, Ted Cruz of Texas, who was speaking about this in the Senate, took the side of gun owners, not surprisingly. And the gun owners assert that it's not the gun owners themselves, it's not the weapon itself, but the person who uses that weapon. That is the issue and that is the problem, which is true. But the problem is when you have the easy availability of weapons such as assault rifles, then who do you blame?
Right.
Do you blame the fact that it's available easily, coupled with the mental stability of someone or the mental frame of someone who's intending to use it? What do? This needs to be examined very urgently in society.
And let me ask you, the Second Amendment is so important to all these gun owners, but is it worth taking a human's life? Why do we not have stronger background checks? Why is mental health not considered when somebody's given a weapon?
And that's exactly what President Joe Biden said today to reporters during a very brief interaction with reporters in a question-and-answer session, where he said precisely we've got to look at the loopholes into background checks. There are apparently plenty of them. People manage to get through those loopholes. They should not be owning guns. They should not be out there buying guns, and yet they manage to get their hands on them. There are many people who manufacture them illegally. Every single gun has to have a serial number so that it's traceable. Every bullet that's used has to have a number so that it's traceable, et cetera, et cetera. But there are loopholes, and many of these weapons don't have it. And background checks, very important. That's why I talked about mental stability, mental frame of mind. You've got to find out if somebody is mentally able to handle owning a weapon. And for what purpose? To what purpose? Is it for sport, which is what ostensibly many of them say, for hunting, things like that? Or is it just to keep it for the sake of holding the privilege of holding a weapon? I would be very afraid of that if someone wants it just for the privilege of owning a gun, because you never know what can happen to you later in life or even early enough in life where you might suddenly lose your mental balance and decide, okay, I have this weapon, I want to use it, I'm upset with someone. There are a lot of things to be thought about very, very carefully in this matter.
Right. This was the 7th shoot in the past 7 days of mass shootings. The last administration also saw a lot of mass shootings. Do you think President Trump is to be blamed for his support for the guns for some of this?
I think legislators, politicians are all to be blamed, from all parties, from everywhere. They are to be blamed for this situation. It's been for decades. It's not something new. President Trump is just one individual who's spoken out in his favor. But any number of politicians from all sides of the aisle have supported owning weapons, have done nothing about gun control over the years, despite the escalating violence involving guns and weapons. Nobody's done anything, and much of that was to be blamed on the lobbyists, the gun lobby. Extremely strong. Everybody in the gun lobby industry has a vested interest in not having any restrictions on the ownership of guns. And it's just every single leader that is responsible, not just one, but every one of them. And I think President Joe Biden, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, today have taken some important steps in trying to see what they can do. As long as the Democrats have a majority in the House of Representatives and at least a 50-50 divide in the Senate, if they can do something to finally bring some kind of order on this issue.
Well, this wraps up our show for the night. Please send us your suggestions to get your voices and organizations in our show. Email us on events@itvgold.com or follow us on Facebook at itvgold. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for free access to many of our popular shows. Thank you for joining us tonight from Queens, New York. This is Vision of Asia, and I'm Aditi Lamba. Take care and be well.